Part 2 Amazing turn of events as rich woman splashes mud on cleaner, hidden witness revealed. Jessica bent low, the cold dampness of the mops sliding across the grand marble floor of Caroline's mansion. Rain drummed against the windows, a chaotic rhythm offering a backdrop to her routine. Just another day, wearing herself thin to provide for Lily, her brilliant daughter with every spark of potential. Yet, beneath the monotony, a storm brewed inside her heart. Then came the sudden splash. Caroline, in her designer attire, whooshed by outside, unaware or perhaps uncaring of the chaos left in her wake. Muddy puddles turned into torrents of brown water, drenching the pristine floor and splattering onto Jessica's worn uniform. For a moment, time froze. There she stood, mud staining her clothes like society's judgment, a cruel reminder of her place in the world. A rush of embarrassment swirled in her chest, the sting of it fueled by the sour thoughts of bills piling high and groceries that would barely last the week. Tears gathered in Jessica's eyes, blurring her vision as she scoured the floor with fervor, desperate to erase not just the mud but the heavy weight of her life. How could this be fair? She lived for her daughter, sacrificed so much, while women like Caroline floated above, disinterested in the realities of life beneath their gilded roofs. Hidden behind the tall hedges, Mr. Thompson, the grizzled old veteran with softened eyes, observed. He had seen enough. The uneasiness settled in his stomach like a stone. He often felt invisible in this neighborhood, yet the raw injustice he just witnessed stirred something deep within him. Someone ought to say something, he muttered under his breath, a quiet determination igniting in his heart. Inside the house, the chatter of Caroline's guests faded as Jessica's spirit crumbled under the weight of their indifference. Could they understand her struggles? Would they even want to? Just then, Lily burst through the door, her teenage face a mask of fury. "Mom!" she cried, "I saw what happened. You don't have to take that from her." The fire ignited in Lily's spirit was a reflection of her mother's sacrifices. In that moment, Jessica's heart swelled with a mixture of pride and fear. As tension swirled, Lily confronted Caroline, her voice steady but fierce. "You may have money, but that doesn't make you better than anyone else." Their eyes locked in a battle of beliefs, the very fabric of privilege and perseverance hanging in the air between them. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue." A hush fell over the room, an almost palpable tension. Jess felt every heartbeat, every heavy breath as Mr. Thompson stepped forward, the weight of years gone by heavy on his shoulders. "We all have stories worth telling, every single one of us." His voice, rough but steady, cut through the air like a knife through butter. Moments hung in suspense, the air crackling with unresolved pain. Would they allow their differences to keep them apart, or could they find common ground and move forward? Both women stood at a crossroads, on the brink of discovering whether empathy could heal the wounds of privilege and hardship. Little did they know, the storm outside was nothing compared to the tempest brewing within. The silence stretched, a taut wire between Jessica and Caroline. Jessica's heart raced, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. She felt her daughter's fiery spirit beside her, a beacon of strength, yet the fear of the unknown gripped her like a vice. What would happen now? The room felt charged, as if time had frozen in the pulse of conflicting lives. Caroline's expression flickered between shock and irritation. "How dare you speak to me like that?" she snapped, her voice rising above the whisper of uncertain guests. Eyes shifted toward her, their judgment clear as they prepared for a spectacle. The laughter, the clinking glasses, all faded into a heavy murmur against the rising tension. Lily squared her shoulders and stepped forward, refusal dancing in her fierce gaze. "You treat people like they're invisible, and it's wrong. Just because you have money doesn't mean you get to wipe your feet on everyone else." Caroline's laughter rang out, a sharp, dismissive sound. Sweetheart, you know nothing about my life. I know enough to see your arrogance. Lily shot back, passion fueling each word. Jessica's eyes darted from Lily to Caroline, her mind racing. This wasn't just about mud on a floor. It was about dignity, respect, and the right to stand tall in the face of adversity. Lily was right. She didn't have to take this. But the weight of her circumstances felt insurmountable. Stop. Jessica found her voice shaky but steady. This isn't what I want. I don't want to get caught up in this feud. Mr. Thompson stepped closer, the tension radiating from his presence like a spotlight. No, Jessica, you shouldn't let this pass. You matter. His words were a lifeline, a reminder. The guests exchanged glances, their discomfort palpable. Would they rally against the perceived upstart, or could they see through the facade of wealth to the very real pain that lingered beneath? Caroline rolled her eyes, but the bravado faltered. You think this is going to change anything? Life is about connections and money, honey. Maybe, Lily countered, her voice rising once more. But it also should be about kindness and understanding. You've lost sight of that. You might live in a mansion, but it doesn't make you a better person. Jessica felt the heat rising in her chest as determination took root. For too long, she allowed the world to define her. Today, she would reclaim her voice. Stop treating us as invisible, Caroline. We are human beings. The crowd stirred. Whispers flitted like leaves in the wind, uncertainty mingling with new, unyielding clarity. Mr. Thompson's heart beat strong in the silence, a tempo echoing the need for change. This might be the moment where privilege would be confronted, where humanity would take a stand, and as Jessica locked eyes with Lily, she felt a surge of hope. The conversation had shifted. They were no longer alone in this battle. Yet the room was still thick with tension, questions hanging heavily in the air. Who do you think you're talking to? Caroline's tone sharpened, defiance edging on desperation. I'm talking to you. Jessica answered, heart pounding, breath steady. I'm talking for all of us who feel unseen. We deserve respect. And just as the words left her lips, the front door burst open. A figure stood silhouetted against the stormy backdrop, soaked from the rain, their breath visible in foggy clouds. What is going on here? Everyone turned, but none could prepare for the identity of the newcomer, their unexpected arrival set to unravel everything. Jessica's heart raced as the silhouette stepped forward, drenched and defiant. The guests gasped, their murmurs swarming like bees, curiosity feeding on the unexpected moment. She squinted against the dim light, her breath hitching in her throat as recognition flooded her senses. Sam? The name slipped from her lips, a whisper of disbelief. Sam had been a friendly face on the streets, a familiar smile amidst the noise of everyday life. He'd once been in their orbit, a kind soul who offered help when no one else would. And now, here he stood, soaked but unyielding, a storm of resilience after the downpour. Why are you all standing around like it's a show? Sam's voice cut through the chaos, strong and unwavering. Life isn't a stage, and people aren't just props in your little games. Caroline's jaw tightened. You have no place to talk here, Sam. The disdain dripped from her words. No place? He shot back, stepping closer, his shoulders squared as he absorbed the crowd's judgment. Maybe the real question is, who are you to judge anyone? Money doesn't equate to worth. The guests shifted uncomfortably, some nodding, others avoiding eye contact. In that moment, a ripple of solidarity began to bubble under the surface, fueled by Sam's fearless stance. Jessica felt the tension easing, giving way to something more powerful, a shared recognition of struggle. Why don't you explain to everyone what you did to the cleaning crew? Sam pressed, turning back to Caroline, his voice quieter but laced with conviction. Maybe then they'll see how ridiculous your arrogance really is. The room fell silent. Caroline faltered for just a second, and it was enough for the crowd to come alive with questions. Whispers stretched into a chorus of disbelief as people began to connect the dots. Jessica could feel the anger surging within her, but she channeled it into strength. This is about more than mud on a rug, she said, her voice rising above the crowd. This is about who we choose to be and how we choose to treat each other. Caroline's eyes narrowed, and the mask of superiority slipped slightly. I don't owe anyone an explanation, she scoffed. Actually, you do, Lily interjected, emboldened by Sam's appearance. You've blinded yourself to reality, and it's time to open your eyes. Seeing the unity take form around them, a warmth blossomed in Jessica's chest. She could feel the energy shift, people stepping closer, engaged, interested. It was as if they were part of something more significant, a movement against indifference and for compassion. And just when Jessica thought they might be gaining ground, Caroline snapped back, her voice dripping with disdain. Fine. I'll tell you what happened, but only if you're all ready to hear the truth. The air crackled with anticipation, her words hanging heavily over the crowd. Jessica felt the impending storm of Caroline's revelation loom just above them like the clouds outside, threatening to pour. Are you ready for this? Caroline smirked, arrogance mingling with a flicker of genuine fear. The crowd leaned in, breathless and waiting, the tension electric. But Sam stepped forward, a glint of defiance in his eyes. No one deserves to be bullied or put down. We won't let you hide behind your wealth any longer. The question hung in the air, a question not just for Caroline, but for everyone in the room. What would happen when the truth finally broke free? The crowd held its breath, waiting for answers that might change everything. Jessica's heart thundered in her chest, each beat echoing the anticipation in the room. Sam stood, resolute as Caroline's shadow loomed large, carrying the weight of judgment in her steely gaze. The air thickened with uncertainty, but also with hope, the hope that sometimes a single voice could ignite change in a room full of silence. Caroline glanced from Sam to the crowd, calculating, trying to reclaim her dominance amidst the tide of defiance. You think you know what I've done? She sneered, flipping her hair over her shoulder with the confidence of someone who believed they could still manipulate the narrative. You have no idea. I might not know everything, but I do know that treating people like disposable objects is wrong, Sam shot back, his tone booming, drawing the audience into his conviction. So go on, Caroline. Let us hear what you've got to say. We deserve to know. There was a deepening murmur, voices rising in anticipation, mixed with the dread that Caroline's reality might spill over and poison the moment. Jessica felt a knot in her stomach, a mingling of anger and fear for what might unfold next. Fine. Caroline's voice wavered, but she pressed on, attempting to regain her footing. It was just a mistake. I was dealing with a lot, okay? You have no idea what it's like. Her voice cracked, revealing a flicker of vulnerability she wasn't ready to own, to be expected to be perfect all the time. Jessica's instincts kicked in, softening her fury. We all have our battles, Caroline. But that's not an excuse to take it out on others. Her words resonated, turning heads as the crowd rallied behind her. Caroline hesitated. Was this an opportunity to turn back? Or would she double down on her defenses? Please, it was an accident, a moment of weakness. She pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. A moment of weakness? Lily interjected, her tone sharp. You splashed mud on someone who was just doing their job. You knew what you were doing. Jessica could see the crowd catching fire, their faces alight with indignation. She pressed on, Caroline, you can't sweep this under the rug or splash it with mud and walk away like nothing happened. Sam took a breath, channeling the collective tension into his words. Caroline, you want to blame the world for your problems, but the truth is, we've all faced struggles. Some of us don't get the safety net you do. It's time to own it. Step up and make it right. As he spoke, Jessica could see cracks form in Caroline's armor, the fear now palpable in her eyes. I wasn't thinking about others, Caroline admitted, her voice smaller now, faltering under the weight of her own vulnerability. It was as if the walls she'd erected around herself were tumbling down, and beneath them lay layers of unaddressed pain and insecurity. At that moment, the crowd began to shift. Some took a step back in surprise, while others leaned in, eagerly awaiting her response. This was a turning point. Jessica could sense it. It was an invitation to bridge the gap, to find common ground. Maybe I can make it right, Caroline said finally, her voice barely a whisper. Her resolve seemed to soften, the once haughty demeanor slipping away like water running from her hands. The air hung thick with choices unmade, futures unwritten. What does that look like? Jessica asked, her heart racing as that familiar knot of hope tightened in her chest. As Caroline opened her mouth again, ready or perhaps reluctant to reveal her next step, the door burst open. A new presence entered, and all eyes turned. Who could it be? The crowd felt the shift, a new layer of tension rising once again. The sudden entry sent whispers darting across the room, confusion battling the hope that had begun to swell. A woman in an elegant blue dress strode in, her heels clicking sharply against the floor, demanding everyone's attention. Her hair cascaded like silk down her back, framing a face that radiated a blend of authority and compassion. Rachel! Jessica gasped, eyes widening as she recognized the philanthropist who had been a beacon of support in their community. Rachel had a reputation for tackling injustices head-on, and her presence was both reassuring and electrifying. Rachel? Caroline echoed, disbelief coloring her voice. She tried to regain her composure, but the weight of her earlier bravado seemed to dissolve under Rachel's gaze. Good to see you, Caroline. I hear we're having an interesting discussion, Rachel said, her voice warm yet firm. She scanned the crowd, and Jessica felt a flicker of excitement. I couldn't help but overhear the conversation about accountability. It's a topic I care deeply about. The atmosphere shifted again, tension rippling like a wave. Rachel was the kind of person people wanted to rally behind, not just for her wealth but for her commitment to making a difference. What do you want? Caroline challenged, her voice rising defensively as she tried to mask her unease. I came to support those who feel unheard, Rachel said gently, locking eyes with Sam. To stand with anyone pushing for honesty and change. The crowd buzzed with a newfound energy. Jessica felt the warmth of hope fill the room again. This was the moment they needed, a powerful ally who would amplify their voices, who could help transform the narrative. Caroline opened her mouth, then shut it, lost for words. Rachel continued, Caroline, we all make mistakes. But part of growing is recognizing them and making amends. It's a brave step to take, and it's how you'll earn respect back, not through evasion, but through honesty. The hint of vulnerability in Rachel's voice seemed to land differently with Caroline. Her defensive wall cracked even further, and for the first time, uncertainty painted her features. Jessica stepped forward, taking a deep breath. Rachel's right. We've all faced moments we wish we could take back. But it's what we do next that defines us. Teach me then. Caroline burst out, raw frustration spilling over. Teach me how to fix it. Tell me what I need to do. The crowd was silent, all staring at her with cautious hope. It's not just about telling you, Sam said, it's about showing you. But it starts with being real. A ripple of murmurs danced around the room, the crowd weighing the sincerity of Caroline's plea. Rachel stepped closer. Let's brainstorm together. Maybe we can set up a community meeting where we can figure out solutions to what's been wrong. Jessica's heart raced, the gravity of this moment setting in. Could they do it? Could they really turn this around? The glimmer of possibility shone brighter with Rachel's support. But as discussions began to bubble, someone in the back of the crowd raised their voice. What about the people who were hurt? How do we heal them? Every head turned, and the intensity of the moment settled into an unspeakable weight. Could they all truly come together to heal those wounds, or was it simply wishful thinking? The air was electric with questions, each heart beating a little faster, each hope striving for connection. As they stood on the precipice of change, all eyes were on Caroline, waiting for her next move. The fate of this gathering hung in the balance, and Jessica could feel the weight of it all. Would Caroline rise to the occasion or let fear drive her back into silence? The answer seemed just beyond reach, and the stakes had never felt higher. Caroline stood in the center of the room, the sounds of whispers falling away as the weight of their hopeful gazes pressed down on her. Her palms clammy against the smooth fabric of her dress, she could feel her heart pounding. This was her moment. She swallowed hard, the lump in her throat threatening to choke her words. "I want to help," she finally managed, her voice unsteady but sincere. "I was too focused on protecting myself to see the pain I caused." Nervous murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some watched with skepticism, others with cautious hope. Caroline took a deep breath, her gaze landing on Sam, whose expression was poised between doubt and encouragement. "I know I messed up. I knew I was under scrutiny, but that's no excuse. I want to change, not just for myself, but for those who suffered because of my actions." As she spoke, the words tumbled out faster, each one feeling more freeing than the last. Rachel nodded, her eyes reflecting understanding. "It's a critical first step, Caroline." She turned to the crowd, her voice gaining strength. "Everyone deserves the chance to heal and to be heard. If we can gather those affected and listen to their stories, we can begin to enact real change. Maybe we can organize a listening session," Jessica suggested, her heart racing with excitement. "A space where people can share what they've been through without fear of judgment." "Exactly," Rachel agreed, her enthusiasm shining through. "We'll set up a safe environment, a chance for healing through honest conversations. If Caroline is willing to make amends, we can help facilitate that." The crowd buzzed again, energy restoring some of the lightness that had been lost. But the back of the room remained steeped in tension, with a few faces still unsure whether to bridge the gap. "What if they don't want to hear her?" A voice chimed in, this time from a man, his arms crossed defiantly. "How can we expect them to forgive and forget just like that?" The room grew silent, the weight of his words hanging heavily in the air. Caroline felt a shiver run down her spine. "Forgiveness is never easy," Rachel acknowledged. "But it's not all on Caroline to earn it. It's about coming together and understanding the pain involved." Caroline steeled herself, her resolve hardening even more against the prickling doubt that began to creep back in. "I want to hear their stories. I want to understand even if it means facing what I've done," she urged, sincerity creeping into her voice as she locked eyes with the skeptic. The crowd absorbed her words, weighing the sincerity in her tone. Just then, a young woman stepped forward from the shadows at the edge of the gathering. "If you truly want to help, then you'll have to face the consequences. No sugarcoating." Her eyes flared with intensity, and an entire hush enveloped the room, instinctively drawn to her presence. Caroline turned, surprised by the unexpected arrival. "I know the pain firsthand," the woman continued, her voice unwavering. 2 years ago, you hurt my father because you wanted to protect your reputation. He has been struggling ever since. If we're going to talk about healing, we need to confront what really happened." Gasps echoed around the room, and every head turned to Caroline. "Do you remember?" the woman pressed. "Do you remember how it felt to toss aside someone else's dignity for your own gain?" The room held its breath, the scrutiny unyielding. Caroline felt her cheeks burn with humiliation, but underlying that was a surge of determination. Opportunities like this didn't come often. "I did wrong," Caroline admitted, her voice trembling but strong. "But I want to make it right. If it means facing what I did to you and your family, then I'm ready to listen." As the tension hung palpably in the air, each heart beat in tandem, the stakes had never felt higher. With Rachel on their side and a spirited vow of honesty from Caroline, could this small gathering truly turn into something transformative, or would the shadow of the past prove too great a barrier? The answer rested just as heavily on the night as the flickering lights overhead. Would they break through or remain shackled to their fears? Only time would tell what this courageous endeavor would yield. The room remained frozen in time, tension thickening the air like a storm cloud. Caroline held her breath, the intensity radiating from the woman at the forefront pressing against her. She couldn't look away from those fiery eyes. There was pain in them, an echo of her past mistakes that felt almost tangible. "What was your father's name?" Caroline's voice nearly cracked, but she willed herself to remain steady. "David," the woman replied, her expression softening slightly, revealing an underlying vulnerability. "David Moore." Each syllable hit Caroline like a brick, opening old wounds she thought she had buried. As faces turned toward her, she saw not just judgment, but a need for truth. She had taken something from them, and now it was time to give back. David, she whispered to herself, the name filling her with guilt. There was a shift in the room, the whispering crows of doubt fading into whispers of possibility. More people were stepping closer, their faces shifting from skepticism to a cautious curiosity about how this conversation might unfold. Would this genuinely lead to healing? Listen, I can't change the past, she continued, her voice gaining strength even as it trembled. But I want to understand how my actions affected your father, how they affected you. Please share your story. We're all here to listen. With a nod, the woman stepped closer, her resolve evident. He used to be so full of life. After what happened, it felt as if he had been stripped of everything. He lost his job, his self-esteem. He turned to the bottle. Every day was a struggle, and my family has been fighting to keep it together ever since. Each word felt like a knife slicing through Caroline's heart. She had never seen the collateral damage of her actions so vividly. All those years she had kept her distance from the consequences, wrapped in her cocoon of privilege. I'm so sorry, Caroline said softly, tears welling in her eyes. I didn't grasp what I was doing then, how it would ripple out to others. It's not just about your apology, the woman replied, her voice strong but her eyes betraying a flicker of sadness. You need to do more than just say you're sorry. You need to make amends, to help David, to help everyone you've hurt. The weight of the revelation pressed down on Caroline, and she realized that the path ahead was not about fixing everything perfectly. It was about honest efforts to right the wrongs she had caused. She took a deep breath, determination welling in her chest. What if we organize support for families like yours? Maybe we can help those who lost so much through job training, counseling, community support. A ripple of murmurs echoed through the crowd, eyes bright with hope and skepticism alike. You really think people will believe you, Caroline? One reluctant voice called out, forcing her to confront the looming doubt. I know it won't happen overnight. I have a long way to go, and it'll take real work. But I'm willing to do it, she insisted, feeling a slow but steady awakening within her spirit, igniting an ember of genuine hope. If I'm going to lead this, I want your guidance. I want everyone's input on how to make it right. Now, for the first time, a small spark of commitment ignited in the room. People leaned in, exchanging glances filled with both uncertainty and a hint of trust. Perhaps, just perhaps, this could turn into something meaningful. Let us gather stories, Rachel spoke up, her confidence bubbling up again. And we'll meet regularly. Together, we can create something robust, something genuine. As they spoke, Caroline felt the swell of emotions: fear, hope, regret, and a flicker of empowerment. I'm ready to face the consequences of my actions, whatever it takes. Just then, a voice rose from the middle of the crowd, piercing through their wary optimism. And what if you fail again? Everyone turned to see an older man, weathered and guarded. Caroline could feel the tension coil tighter than a spring, unspoken fears swirling in the air. All eyes zeroed in on her again, demanding an answer. I don't want to fail, she replied, heart racing. But I think I'm learning something essential. Making mistakes doesn't have to be where the story ends. It could be the beginning of something new, if you let me show you. Around the room, hearts were beginning to stir, producing feelings once buried deep. Would they give her a second chance? Or was the past too heavy to lift? As the room hung on her every word, Caroline faced the dawning realization that the hardest part was yet to come. How would she prove that she truly wanted to change? What would that mean for everyone involved? The air simmered with unanswered questions, the path ahead uncertain yet ripe with possibility. Caroline took a step forward, ready to embrace whatever came next. Caroline felt the heat rising in her cheeks as the man's challenge echoed in her mind. She had desperately wanted to erase the past, but now the weight of it bore down even harder. There was a beat of silence, thick and taut like a drawn bowstring. Doubt started between her and the crowd's watchful eyes. She could sense hesitation in the air, a longing for reassurance wrapped in skepticism. Taking a deep breath, she cast her gaze across the room. These were not just strangers. They were scars and dreams stitched together by shared pain. I understand you have every reason not to trust me. I've been where you are standing in my own reflection, full of fear and regret. And trust me, that's a hard place to be. The older man's brows knitted tighter in disbelief. She could feel the tension of the crowd, and she braved herself to push on. But isn't that the first step? To admit when we've lost our way? I want to confront what I did, and the impact it had on your lives. I don't expect forgiveness right away. I just want a chance to prove that people can change. A murmur traveled through the room. The woman with fiery eyes, who had first shared her truth, nodded slightly as if inviting others to reconsider. Caroline saw the flicker of hope in her, a spark that fought against the shadows of doubt. Maybe they were beginning to see a glimmer of something else. Maybe we can craft a community project together, Caroline suggested, finding resolve in her voice. Let us bring our stories to light, raise awareness of the struggles families face when violence strikes their lives. Let us open up pathways for support so others won't feel so alone. Rachel chimed in again, her voice brightening. We can create workshops, teach skills, hold community events. If move forward together, we can help not just ourselves, but others out there who are hurting. This could be bigger than any one of us. The mood in the room shifted palpably. The hardened soil of mistrust cracked just a bit, allowing for the possibility of new growth. They began to talk more enthusiastically, casting aside questions of Caroline's past and focusing instead on what they could do in the present. Ideas flowed, bouncing off one another like joyful music. In the midst of this blossoming energy, Caroline felt a warmth soaking into her heart. Hope, once fragile, began to stretch and expand. But as soon as the thrill of connection surged, an undercurrent of fear lurked in the background. What if this newfound trust was as fleeting as a spring blossom, unable to withstand a sudden frost? Amidst the discussions, a young man stepped forward, his voice tinged with hesitation. But what if this turns into another promise broken? How do we know you won't just walk away? Before she could respond, her heart began to race again, the weight of every sorry deed creeping in. You're right, she said firmly. I know I can't promise perfection. All I can guarantee is my commitment to these ideas and to supporting you. I will show up. Every day, I will show up. A ripple of uncertainty passed through the room. Caroline had placed herself at the mercy of their judgment, and she could feel it, the daunting road ahead stretching out before her like a vast, uncharted territory. As voices began to rise again, with intentions blending into shared plans and aspirations for the community, she looked into those fiery eyes once more, a silent promise binding them. One step at a time. But just then, the same older man broke through the crowd's energy once more. You say you want to prove yourself, Caroline, but prove it to who? Us? Or to yourself? Because that's the real question, isn't it? The air hung heavy again with uncertainty. Caroline opened her mouth as if to respond, yet no words came. Her heart pounded, and the crowd's expectant gaze bore down. This was more than a chance for community. It felt like her own redemption was on the line. How could she truly prove her commitment without losing herself this time around? The answer felt like it slipped through her fingers the moment she thought she had grasped it. Would she be able to face the truths deep within her as they unfolded? Would the past ever fully let go? The tension thickened once more as she stood before them, not just seeking their trust, but embarking on a journey to reclaim her own heart. Caroline's breath hitched in her throat as the question hung there, suspended in the moment. The older man's gaze bore into her, fierce and unyielding. The crowd waited, every eye on her, every heart holding its breath. Did they really want to see her fail again? Did she want to fail again? She felt the urge to run, to retreat to the safety of her past, where she had honed the art of avoidance. But something stronger bubbled beneath the surface, a determination she didn't know she had. I want to prove it to myself, she finally managed to say, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside. I know that I've made choices that hurt people. I can't change those choices, but I can choose to do better moving forward. This is my chance to make it right, even if I trip on this road. I need to stand here, and I need you all to hold me accountable. Because truthfully, I'm terrified. A murmur swept through the crowd, puzzling yet receptive. Caroline's openness had cracked something. Now they were vulnerable, too. The older man's brow unfurled slightly. Terrified is honest, he muttered, peering at her as if the fog of skepticism was clearing just a bit. Before Caroline could say another word, Rachel stepped forward, her vibrant presence lighting up the dim room. If we're being honest, can't we all relate to fear in some way? We've all felt lost, faced our own hard choices. That's why we're here tonight. We need to find a way to lift each other up. The older man glanced at Rachel, then at Caroline, the corner of his mouth twitching upwards slightly. Fine, maybe you're right, Rachel. But change doesn't come easy. We've been let down before. If we're going to trust you, you have to show us you mean it, and not just with words. Show you? Caroline echoed back, a spark igniting within her. Then let us start today. Let us create groups where we can talk openly about our fears and struggles. We can support each other, sharing the weight of our stories more evenly. I'm ready to dive in, head first, with all of you. The energy in the room surged, like a gust of wind filling sails ready to take off. Ideas burst forth: community gardens, outreach programs, public forums. Somehow, they were fueling each other's passion as Caroline felt the initial hesitation start to fade, replaced by an exhilarating sense of purpose. They were weaving their fates together, one shared dream at a time. But as enthusiasm filled the air, a little voice inside her whispered doubts. How long could this last? Could she stand up to the inevitable setbacks that loomed ahead? Just as optimism sparked within, fear flickered in the shadows. Let us bring in outside support, too, Rachel proposed to the lively chatter. We can reach out to local resources, get professionals involved. Together, we can build something truly transformative. Caroline nodded vigorously, her determination amplifying. Yes. That's exactly. We can establish a system where everyone's voice is heard. But before she could continue, the young man who had questioned her before stepped up again, his eyes softer now. And if things get tough? When we start to lose our faith, will you still be here for us, Caroline? The room fell silent again, the weight of expectation creeping back. Caroline felt her heart pound, a reminder of everything she was trying to change. That's the hardest part, she admitted. But I promise to stay. For as long as you'll have me. The older man's gaze shifted back to her, seriousness returning. Then it's time to put words into action. We need to set a timeline to hold each other accountable. Can you handle that? As the crowd nodded, Caroline took a deep breath. They were reaching a turning point, she could feel it. Yet apprehension wrapped around her heart. It was one thing to dream. It was another thing to bring those dreams to life under scrutiny. Now a plan was taking shape, words filling hopes. But the tiny voice of fear still whispered, what if she failed? What if this moment turned to chaos? The uncertainty was palpable as she looked around at them, all of them ready to take the plunge. Together. This was the moment they could all either elevate each other or fall apart. Would they stand united in the face of challenges to come? With a sudden clarity, Caroline took a step forward. All right, let us get to work. But we're not just doing this for us, we're doing this for every person out there who feels unheard. But, as she engaged the crowd's fire, she couldn't help but wonder, would her commitment be enough? Would anyone truly stay if things got messy? The answer hung just out of reach, tantalizing and ominous. And with that doubt came a question: what would they discover about themselves along the way? Caroline took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the moment settle around her like a heavy cloak. The energy in the room pulsated with a raw mix of hope and anxiety. She looked out at the faces surrounding her, some skeptical, others eager, all waiting. This was her chance to transform the shadows that had cloaked her for so long. I want this to be more than just words, she began, her voice steady as she pushed through the lump in her throat. I want it to be a movement where every single one of us has a part to play. We've all experienced hurt, come from different worlds. It's time we invite each other into this space and grow together. Jessica felt a flicker of hope ignite in her chest, a delicate flame that dared to burn brightly. She watched as people nodded, expressions shifting from doubt to curiosity, from hesitation to possibility. Sam stood beside her, his eyes alight with conviction. The time had come to turn their pain into purpose. Caroline continued, "I'll share my struggles and failures. I'll own up to what I've done, but I also want to hear your stories. Let us connect. Let us not just speak at each other but truly listen." There was a charged silence, as if the very air thickened with potential. More and more people began to raise their hands, eager to share their own experiences. The room buzzed with voices, speaking not just of pain but of resilience and the strength found in vulnerability. The barriers that had divided them began to dissolve, piece by piece. Rachel chimed in enthusiastically. "Let us start a monthly community circle, personal stories, insights, and growth. A place of healing and understanding. Underneath our differences lies a common thread, the desire to be heard and valued." Caroline took a step closer to the young woman who had first called her to accountability. "I want to learn from you truly. Will you help lead this?" Tears of unexpected gratitude glimmered in the woman's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, I want to help. Not just for my dad but for everyone who has felt forgotten." As conversations swirled and the once tentative ideas morphed into actionable plans, Jessica grabbed Lily's hand, squeezing it tight. "Look at all this," she whispered, all washing over her. Lily beamed back, her determination unwavering. "It's happening, Mom. They're going to change." Moments later, they heard laughter trickle through the crowd, melting away the remaining chill of the confrontation. People were connecting, building bridges upon their shared vulnerabilities. Caroline felt a surge of warmth, like the sun breaking through a heavy fog. Heart pounding, she resolved to stay true to her words. "I'll commit to transparency," she told the crowd. "In my failures, my learning, and through our victories. Let me show you that growth can emerge from mistakes." A ripple of agreement surged through the room. The young man's voice broke through once again, softer now. "And if you stumble, you'll be here to face it, right?" He looked deep into Caroline's eyes, and the room fell still. "Yes," she replied, voice unwavering. "I'll be here. Through every messy step. Because this isn't just about me, it's about all of us defining who we can be together." With those words, an invisible bond formed. Hearts began to intertwine. They were all stepping toward the same horizon, enkindled by the courage to confront their truths. As the crowd began to disperse, excitement buzzing in the air, Caroline met Sam's gaze, gratitude radiating between them. "You were right. We can't just expect change, it's something we have to fight for every day." A knowing smile crossed Sam's face, and he nodded. "And we will. Together." In that moment, under the stormy yet beautiful twilight, they began crafting a future where understanding replaced judgment, and compassion reigned over complacency. As Jessica and Lily stepped into the night, Jessica couldn't help but look back at the mansion that had felt so imposing just hours before. She finally felt grounded in her purpose, the love for her daughter fueling her desire for a better world. "If we can just keep talking," Jessica said softly to Lily, "we can change everything." Lily's radiant smile lit up the evening, illuminating the path ahead. "This is just the beginning, Mom." And with that they walked forward, hearts full, eyes clear, and resolved to inspire change for themselves and their community. They knew it wouldn't be an easy road, but a road worth traveling together. Not one soul hidden behind hedges, rather, uplifting one another, one story at a time. Now, if you're feeling inspired like I am, this is your moment to make a difference. You need to subscribe now to be part of this journey, not just to follow along but to help these incredible stories thrive. Leave a like now to show your support. Every click fuels the fire of change. Comment below with your reactions to this deeply transformative ending. Let your voice be heard. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these simple actions. Let's keep it going together.